You're listening to the Trading Bear Podcast. This is episode 56, The Daily Show.
Mystery player. Position.
Midfield.
Start price.
63p.
Current price.
£2.38.
PB.
4p.
MB.
0.
Dividend yield.
1.7%.
Welcome back, thanks for joining in. In today's news, it looked like being a weekend dominated by the Champions League final. That was until Neymar's price decided it wanted to ride Blackpool's Big Dipper, with his price boomeranging all over the place late on Saturday night, shortly after the final whistle had gone at Atletico Madrid's Wanda Metropolitano Stadium. More on that in a minute then. Elsewhere, Paris Saint-Germain are the latest club to be linked with the ex-Liverpool playmaker Philippe Coutinho. Chelsea are also thought to be keen as a replacement for Madrid-bound Eden Hazard, but a bid depends on a successful appeal by Chelsea regarding their current transfer ban. And lastly, James Rodriguez looks set for a tug-of-war between Juventus and Napoli, with the former gaining an advantage through Ronaldo's friendship with Rodriguez during their time at Real Madrid together. Although Napoli's chairman, Aurelio De Laurentiis, has been quoted as telling the local Italian media to expect a good surprise on Monday. We'll have to wait and see just exactly what he meant by that then. In the meanwhile, we head back to the Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid to take a look at today's risers. No surprises for guessing that the two main risers on the back of their team's triumph in the Champions League were Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk. Salah rose 12p to take him to £4.97, and Van Dijk rising 8p to a price of £3.04. Salah was the beneficiary of Football Index's highest ever dividend payout on Saturday, as he took the 5p highest forward dividend as well as the 3p highest media dividend. The Champions League final then, and hence triple media dividends, coinciding with the first day of Media Madness that saw the top 5 players with the most articles taking home dividends. The two look likely to continue their media dividend run in the near future as well, with Salah having the African Cup of Nations in his home country of Egypt, while man of the match winner Virgil van Dijk, he has a quick turnaround for the Nations League semi-finals with the Netherlands. Also, with that man of the match award in the Champions League final, he's also strengthened the rumours that the Liverpool centre-back will take home the Ballon d'Or ahead of Barcelona's magical magician. While the risers were fairly close together in terms of unit price moved in a 24-hour period, there was no doubting who the biggest faller was this weekend, and indeed at one point the fall could be measured in pounds rather than pence. However, after Saturday night and Sunday morning had mellowed out, Neymar's price settled at £7.28, after a nice symmetrical fall in price of 28p. In a very short space of time, between 10:15 and 10:30pm on Saturday night, Neymar's price had rocketed down from a starting point at £7.51 all the way down to £6.50 at its lowest ebb, before quickly rebounding up to £7, before once again almost immediately falling back down to £6.70, as IS and listing played a huge part in the rollercoaster effect. Around midnight, the price started to recover once more, at a more gradual pace this time, growing every hour up until early Sunday afternoon to sit at its current level of £7.28. Now, the reason for the dramatic price reduction revolved around a breaking news story to do with an alleged rape accusation which Neymar and his team vehemently deny, to the extent that the very next morning, Neymar released the WhatsApp text messages exchanged between himself and the accusee, which was the reason for the price gradually building back up again early on Sunday morning. What it does show is the liquidity in the platform, and I'm sure many traders were wondering how to react. More on this in a second in this episode's listeners' questions. We go into this episode's prospect player now, a player who I feel could do well in the near future and attract buys. For this episode, we head back into the Spanish capital, but for a player that has been loaned out by the Royals to the lower half of the Liga team of Levante this past season. Although finishing a lowly 15th out of 20th in the Liga, Levante smashed in an impressive 59 goals, more than the likes of 4th place Valencia and 2nd place Atletico Madrid for example, and indeed only 4 less than Real Madrid themselves. The player in question then is on loan Real Madrid striker, 22-year-old Borja Mayoral. Described as a scavenger type striker in the mould of a Benzema or Raul, Zidane quoted Mayoral as a striker that scores every time he has a shot. Now, although he didn't quite live up to that billing at Levante this season, He certainly has for the Spanish under-21s, scoring 14 and 24 appearances. He is heavily favoured to perform well at the upcoming under-21 Euros in a couple of weeks' time, and a good showing there might just put him firmly back in Zidane's thoughts, or at the very least, a loan to a club higher up in the rankings than Levante. This episode's prospect player is Borja Mayoral. Let's have a look at some of your questions now then. This episode's first question comes via email, with Kieran Hull asking, on the back of Neymar's huge fall yesterday and his rise again today, when do you A. time your price to sell if you hold, and B. time your price to buy if you don't hold? Thanks, PS, great show. Well, getting these types of decisions right is an extremely tricky business, but can be very rewarding if you do so. It's certainly a lot easier to time when to buy rather than when to sell, so let's start with part B first, Kieran, and when to time your buy. On the presumption the player in question, as he is in Neymar's case or Kane's case, you want to first be making sure that the player you're buying is general proven index material, be it for PB or MB, or very likely potential to win dividends in the future at the very least. Once that box is ticked, generally once a price drops by more than 50p, that's your window to buy back in, especially if it's a finite piece of news that has caused the drop, like an injury for example. It's a little trickier with accusations that could potentially come back every now and then, like it has done with Ronaldo in recent weeks, but in general, once a drop of 50p has been felt, that's your buying opportunity. Now part A, when to sell? Well, if you see the news in the very first minutes of it breaking, then you have the option to IS before the masses, but take note of the size of the spread. If you feel the risk is too much and that the price of the player will drop below the IS price, then sell. If however you see the news 15 to 20 minutes after the news is broken, then just hold. 9 times out of 10 the price will rebound to a better position than the IS available to you at that time. Finally, it's yet another reminder in cases like this to fully diversify your portfolio. If Neymar was anything above 10 to 15% of your port, regardless of your total capital, then no doubt beads of sweat were dripping down your face on Saturday night, even before the hangover had kicked in. The second question arrives via Index Gain, with long-time listener Dan wanting to know the following. Would Sarri being at Juventus help boost CR7's average PB or possible MB with personality clashes with Sarri? Nice question this, Dan. So would Cristiano Ronaldo benefit from the appointment of current Chelsea boss Maurizio Sarri? Well, yes, I believe he would. Out goes the manager that actually brought Ronaldo to the club, and in comes a manager that the British media aren't particularly enamoured with, despite his actual decent accomplishments with Chelsea this year. Champions League qualification, League Cup finalists, and ending with Europa League winners. Sarri certainly has that Italian raw emotion inside of him, as evidenced by the angry reaction to Chelsea's training session, just the night before the Europa final. He's also certainly no stranger to a power struggle with his players, after the whole keeper debacle in the cup final earlier this year. Man-managing Ronaldo would provide a whole new set of challenges, which would no doubt bring with it extra MB. When looking at the PB factor, well, Juventus' all-round style for general PB last year was very poor through Allegri's tactics, and despite the seemingly boring tactics that Sarri has offered up at Stamford Bridge this season, he does have pedigree in Serie A before, through his passing style days of Napoli. All in all then, yes, I think MB would improve, and Juventus as a team's PB has to improve, so yeah, I think this is a great shout then. The major caveat though with Ronaldo is obviously that story looming over him. Just be wary of this. And that's it for this episode. You can download and subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify and Podbean. Head over to the website to send in a question, tradingbearpodcast.com. Alternatively, you can find me on Index Gain or Twitter under the name Trading Bear. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for the mystery player.
Mystery player. Position.
Midfield.
Start price.
63p.
Current price.
£2.38.
PB.
4p.
MB.
0.
Dividend yield.
1.7%.
Trading Bear. Today's mystery player was England under-21 international James Maddison.